Caesar has no place here. Apes follow Koba now.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan, and I'm here to tell you right now that Koba was right. You see, the Planet of the Apes isn't just about apes on horses shooting guns, although that is pretty awesome. There is also a central question to this franchise. Can two different sentient species ever share the Earth in peace? And now, according to Koba and our own history, the answer is probably no.
There is not enough room or tolerance on this planet for another species.
Well, who is Koba anyways? That mean monkey from the second movie?
He's not a monkey, he's an ape.
Yes, Koba was Caesar's friend in Rise of the Planet of the Apes and the antagonist in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And you're right, buddy, we do need to re-explain the events of those first two movies from an ape point of view. Then we can truly understand why Koba was right all along.
What?
By the way, everybody, thank you for clicking this video and supporting our channel by shopping our merch store where we designed these two new ape shirts. Oh wait, I was wrong.
It was Earth all along.
And what a wonderful day. We love designing these shirts for you guys, and shopping our merch store helps us make videos like this one. The links for those are below. Thank you so much for watching. So let's revisit Rise of the Planet of the Apes. In that movie, James Franco plays a scientist named Will Rodman who is trying to develop a cure for Alzheimer's because his dad is suffering from the disease. In fact, his dad actually names Caesar.
As for Caesar, kneel down.
Now, thematically, it's kind of fitting that a human who is losing his brain function names the super smart ape who creates a new race. It's like the human race is passing the torch. Caesar grows up in this house and he has a great childhood, and Will Rodman eventually sees him as a member of the family.
I'm your father.
But even from a young age, Caesar notices that he is different from the rest of his family.
Are you a pet? No. You're not a pet.
So Caesar has a limited and very positive view of humanity as a child. Like a lot of us, when he's at home before he's been socialized, he only sees the best in humanity. You know, like before we all have to go to kindergarten and socialize with sociopaths. His only negative interaction with the human race is the jerk next door, Hunsicker, who, by the way, is the real villain of this franchise. Hunsicker represents the worst of humanity. He is fearful.
If I see that animal anywhere near my house or my kids again,
He's not dangerous.
He's prone to violence. And he's ultimately selfish, arrogant, and unkind. Hunsicker gets into an argument with Will's father, Charles. Caesar steps in to defend him the only way he knows how. Afterwards, they lock Caesar up in a place where he first sees the worst of humanity. Brian Cox lies about the treatment of apes, and Draco Malfoy torments them for his own pleasure.
I'll show you something funny.
And worse, he even retaliates when Caesar embarrasses him in front of a girl.
Told you not to get too close, man.
So Caesar misses his home, even redrawing his attic window on the wall. But then Will comes to visit and he breaks some heartbreaking news.
No, we're not going home right now.
Caesar decides he can no longer trust in his father, and he can't run from the way the apes are being treated, and he chooses to stay. He then becomes the leader of the apes, makes them super smart, and ultimately leads them to a new sanctuary. His experience at this ape house shows him that not only can humans be cruel, but human institutions are also cruel. In other words, the very laws that govern humanity are corrupt. They are laws that kept him away from his family. So this is why Caesar decides he's going to create a new family. And this is where Koba comes into it. When Will tells his boss about the Alzheimer drug's remarkable effects, his cartoonishly evil boss orders the testing on apes to be accelerated. Which, by the way, James Franco did now at this point have leverage to get Caesar out of jail, but he never used it.
Not the worst thing he's done.
This is true. So at the lab, this good man now does not hesitate to use new chimps for testing. And then he meets Koba, an ape who has been scarred and traumatized from past experiments. But when Will sees how smart Koba is, he does not hesitate to use him for new experiments.
Okay. This one.
Because remember, Will is trying to save his father. Will wants to care for the people that he loves, his dad, his girlfriend, and Caesar. This is showing us a key tenet of human thinking, tribalism, that is going to be revisited again and again and again in this series.
What's tribalism?
So simply put, tribalism is when people get together and say, hey, these are my people and you are not. Tribalism is a way that humans have always divided ourselves, even before we were technically considered human beings. Tribalism exists for a variety of reasons: resource scarcity, race, religion, but I think it always comes down to fear. We are afraid of the unknown, so we cast the unknown out. So Will is applying tribalism to his own family and saying to hell with everyone else. He gives Koba the smart gas, and Caesar eventually breaks the ape out of jail so then they can go form their ape Eden in the woods. Now, this movie is not impartial. It begins with humans hunting apes and splitting apart their families in a sequence that was actually meant to evoke the first action sequence in the 1968 original Apes film. And throughout this movie, we are actively rooting for the apes. We root for Caesar because his separation from his family was heartbreaking and we want to see him create a new family. And then he is forced to suffer so much indignity that the most fist-pumping moment in this movie is when an ape stands up to a human for his own rights.
No!
Now, all through the movie, we meet humans who are greedy, violent, arrogant, and selfish, while the apes are mostly portrayed as victims who are kind, understanding, submissive, and intelligent. Even when Koba sentenced the greedy boss man to death, it's a victorious moment. The message of the first movie is clear: human bad, ape good. So now, the next movie, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, interrogates this point. We see the ape society disrupted and eventually fall prey to the same fears and paranoia that govern human society. In the second movie, Caesar and his people are living in a perfect little community, and Koba and the others are following his lead. Meanwhile, a plague has spread across the world, killing 90% of the human race and increasing the intelligence of more apes. Caesar and Maurice are hopeful that all humans have died by this point. But several hundred human survivors have gathered in San Francisco, and then they send the search party up to Ape Country to repair a dam. Their goal here is to provide electricity for their city, which would then allow them to power an antenna so they could communicate with other humans. You see, the human race is looking for connection. They want to find more humans and rebuild their race.
It's about giving us the tools to reconnect to the rest of the world, to find out who else is out there.
But when the first human comes across these intelligent apes, his first reaction is fear and violence. In fact, the first reaction from every human is fear. This is even true of Malcolm and Ellie, the good humans in the movie. So Caesar decides to respond to their fear with more fear by showing up at their enclave in force, hoping to scare them away from his territory.
Do not come back.
Now really, Caesar should have known better. He knows that humans are prone to cruelty, and he should have known that revealing themselves will only allow humans an excuse to be cruel. Gary Oldman plays Dreyfus, the leader of the humans. And the thing is, Dreyfus is not a typical bad guy. He is not the leader of a paramilitary organization. He's not a soldier or like a neo-Nazi who's risen up in the apocalypse. He's just a guy who is trying to keep people alive. He has seen everyone he's ever loved die. They are about to run out of food. They need electricity to contact the rest of the human race. Their survival's at stake. And then talking chimps show up on horseback. So he allows Malcolm to go back up to the ape settlement and ask for help. But then he also tells his own people to get ready for war.
Now, this city may not have the manpower it once did, but it has the firepower.
And I think the way he reacts in this movie is the way 99% of the human race would react.
They may have got their hands on some of our guns, but that does not make them men. They are animals!
Remember, these people didn't get to see the first movie. They are scared, they are starving. I mean, hell, when Caesar rides into town, they probably see him as a giant drumstick on a horse. Of course, the humans are going to react with paranoia. Now, Caesar's show of force here gives him false confidence, and he eventually capitulates, allowing the nice human to go up and repair the dam. Now, Koba is against this from the start. Remember, at this point in the movie, he still loves Caesar. And he sees that his friend and leader is making a mistake. When Caesar says that they can let them finish their human work, Koba gives this heartbreaking reply.
Human work. Human work.
Now, Caesar is an optimist whose view of humans is a little clouded by the experiences of his childhood. He knows that peace with humans would be the ideal situation for his people, but Koba understands that peace is also the least likely outcome for their people. So Koba does what Caesar should have done. He sends spies into the human city. It's like what Reagan always said about the Soviets.
Trust but verify.
And then Koba discovers that the humans have an enormous stockpile of guns, and they're actively training to use them. He has just discovered discovered that the humans are planning an ape genocide. So when Koba returns to the settlement, he is horrified to see that Caesar has ordered the apes to help the humans. And then when he attacks the humans, Caesar does not hesitate and he responds with violence. And you could say that Koba just should have told Caesar about the humans and the guns and all that stuff. But Caesar never gave him the chance to tell him. Caesar reacted out of anger and chose to harm his friend while helping humans. So then Koba makes a decision very much like the one Caesar made in the first film. Caesar made a calculated decision to leave Will and embrace the apes. This decision forged him into a wise leader. And then Koba also makes a decision to leave the leadership of Caesar. His heart has been broken. He now sees that his hero, Caesar, has joined his enemy.
Caesar love humans more than apes.
So then Koba essentially invents ape murder, like Cain killing Abel. Except, unlike Cain, Koba didn't commit murder out of jealousy, but out of a deep sense of right and wrong. He's also, by the way, brilliant for not just shooting Caesar, but for blaming it on the human. I mean, this is a guy who is figuring out murder and politics on the same day. He would be lethal in a presidential election.
So you're saying Koba was right about murdering Caesar and then lying to rise to power?
No, that's not what he was right about. Koba's actions in this movie, leading an uprising, setting their home on fire, and locking humans in cages, all very bad things. But he was right about the human race. If our brief life upon this planet has taught us anything, it's one simple, irrefutable truth. We kind of suck. Koba knew that if Caesar let humans have electricity, this would only empower them. No pun intended.
So that we can start to rebuild and reclaim the world we love.
The human race are essentially restless apes. We love to explore, to assimilate information and resources. We're like this movie's opening title showing the spread of simian flu across the world. I mean, it's like Agent Smith said.
Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague.
But not only do humans expand, we do it carelessly. Anytime we discover a new massive land, our old friends' fear and tribalism kick in. We see the natives as the other, and then we push them aside to make room for our own stuff. Sometimes this is done through economic means, like gentrification, but historically, colonizers did this through genocide, with guns, blankets, spears, and rocks. And I'm not saying all humans are bad, or that a particular economic class of humans are bad, or the particular nation of humans are bad. I'm not even saying you are bad. In fact, you are great. You actually represent the best of us. But what I'm saying here is that human history has proven that when we are afraid, we tend to kill first and ask questions later. Now, I say at the top of this video that the enduring question of the movie is, could two sentient, separate races ever coexist on Earth? And we already know the answer to that. It's no. Homo sapiens are not the only race of intelligent humanoids that have walked the Earth. We once shared the planet with Neanderthals.
It's Neanderthals.
I'll say it both ways. It's interchangeable to me. So Neanderthals were like humans in many ways. According to National Geographic, Neanderthals looked similar to humans but had more prominent brows, protruding faces, and rib cages that were shorter, deeper, and wider. In addition, their eye sockets were much larger. Now, Neanderthals and humans shared the Earth for tens of thousands of years or longer before the former were suddenly wiped out 40,000 years ago. Now, science is always debating what actually happened. Some scholars think that Neanderthals were bred out of existence as they commingle with humans. After all, up to 4% of the DNA of humans living outside of Africa can be traced to Neanderthals. Other scholars think that Neanderthals slowly died out because humans were better suited to survive in the colder environments of the Ice Age. But the real key to this mystery is in Italy, where humans and Neanderthals coexisted for about 3,000 years, according to a report by the European Union. Now, that study concluded that the weapons of Homo sapiens were just ultimately better as humans developed projectiles like arrows. So what likely happened was that as the Ice Age worsened, competition for resources became scarce, and then humans waged war on their distant cousins. If this is true, it would have been the first act of genocide that humans carried out on the planet. And I think this is probably what happened because we still see human beings behaving like this today in modern society. Anytime two cultures encounter one another, we historically become afraid and paranoid, and one attempts to destroy the other. It's why we fought the Cold War for 50 years, and we were only saved then by the threat of mutually assured destruction. So I 100% think that after Dreyfus got that dam working, he would have sent people up into the woods and killed every last ape. He even says so.
You're not back in 3 days. We're going up there, and we're going to kill every last one of them.
Now Caesar has this lofty notion of living in peace with humans to save lives. Now this kind of peace is possible, but only when we stop seeing people who are different as the other. In other words, peace is only possible when we accept more people into our tribe. Peace is possible when we feel empathy for someone even though they are different. But the human race can't even do that with each other. There's no way we could ever accept an army of sentient apes as our own. We even see that in the next movie. In that film, we discover that the simian flu is not only making apes smarter, but it's also robbing humans of the ability to speak. In the eyes of Woody Harrelson's character, the Colonel, this makes the humans less than. They're more like animals.
One day he suddenly stopped speaking. He became primitive, like an animal.
And then he proceeds to murder his own kind, even his own family.
I realized that I would have to sacrifice my only son so that humanity could be saved.
The next film proves that humanity would have always hunted down an intelligent ape species, that we would have always given in to fear. When a movie is called War for the Planet of the Apes, you would assume that the movie is going to be about apes battling humans. But really, it was about humans fighting each other. And even when that battle was over and one side of the humans had won their hard-fought victory, there is a moment of stillness when they see Caesar. And their first instinct is to raise their weapons just to kill one lonely ape. So I 100% think that Koba was right to carry out a preemptive strike on the humans. And I think that Caesar would have agreed if he would have let Koba get a word in edgewise. Now, obviously, where Koba went wrong was his belief that all humans are always bad, just as Caesar's mistake was to believe that all apes are always good.
I always think ape better than human. I see now how much like them we are.
Koba's reprisals against humanity are just as steeped in fear and tribalism as Dreyfus's actions. I think that their only way forward would have been a middle ground between the approaches of Caesar and Koba. Neither the humans nor the apes really made an effort to understand one another. Caesar could have told Dreyfus that he was raised by humans and that many of the apes were tortured in laboratories by humans, but instead he chose to use fear as a blunt instrument.
Ape! Home! Human! Home! Do not come back.
Instead, he could have tried simply asking the humans what they really wanted, which, was food. And then Koba would have discovered the guns and then told Caesar about them. So Caesar then would have been in a position to make a bargain. We will bring you elk in exchange for you destroying your guns. Or he could have led an invasion force and seized the guns by force. But instead, he acted without gathering all the information. Caesar let his warm, fuzzy childhood experiences blind him to a simple truth. Peace is not achieved by hiding, and peace is also not achieved through violence. To achieve peace, you need courage, because courage can lead to understanding, understanding leads to cooperation, cooperation leads to empathy, and empathy is seeing another person's needs as your own. And that is the only way to end tribalism and create peace. I think that this is the way forward, not just in this new Planet of the Apes trilogy, but in our own lives. When we're in conflict with another nation or even our neighbor next door, we have to first overcome our fear of the unknown and then have the courage to extend that hand in friendship. But also, like Koba showed us, we have to make sure the other guy isn't hiding a warehouse and machine guns behind his back.
So is peace achievable in the real world?
Well, I'd like to think so, but was it achievable between humans and apes in the movie Dawn of the Planet of the Apes? Absolutely not. Koba was right. Well guys, that's just my thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.